Yeah, so with availability, when people are traveling or even just kind of on an ongoing basis, one of the things that CheckCherry does is has lots of different tools to manage different kind of use cases, different things that come up. Um, and so we just kind of wanted to walk through some of those. I guess I'll start with the feature that we call availability. And it's a little bit buried under manage. If you go to business settings and availability, this to me is kind of the starting point of
Yeah.
all the availability stuff.
And Matt, if I could
Um,
just, I just want to hop in and,
Absolutely.
when we
Yeah.
were, Matt did a lot of the work behind this feature specifically long ago, but we specifically didn't want kind of like a traditional inventory asset management feature because in talking with our customers, it seemed like they had um, a lot of different packages, all backed by the same hardware, and it was just like, the approach we took, it was not inventory or in a traditional sense, and so we called it availability basically, and that's basically why we stick with that term. But yeah.
Exactly. And obviously the goal is to, if you've got one person doing all the events, or you've got one booth, or if you've got limitations, we want to make sure that you're not getting double booked, not getting overbooked, things like that. So kind of the simplest, if you're just a single operation, single person operation, or you've got one booth, or you can handle only, one event at a time, kind of the simplest thing is just to drop in the number one there. Once you do that and hit save, and basically what that means is you can only do one booking at a time. We call them simultaneous bookings. But basically, like that kind of means like how many, whatever the limiting factor is it people, is it equipment, whatever it is, how many can you do at a time? And for some people, like I say, that'll be one. For some people, you can do maybe you have enough staff or equipment or whatever the case is to do three at a time or five at a time. And of course, you can come in and change that, as your business grows. Maybe you start out, you're just getting into it, you set this to one, and then a couple months later, you get another booth, you get some people helping you can bump that up to two to three and so forth.
It's a common setup where somebody has just one photo booth, or they're just a solo entrepreneur, and they have a bunch of packages below, and they only have to put a number one right here. It's super easy, so I love that.
Mhm. And kind of the next thing that I want to look at is, so we call these simultaneous bookings. You can have one simultaneous booking. What that actually means is, by default, with a lot of our photo boothers, they only want to do one event per day. So once, July 4th is booked, I'm done. I'm not doing any more on July 4th. And I think that's the default that we use on if you sign up as a photo booth account. And so what that means is, once you're booked on July 4th, that's it, you're done. Another way to do it, though, is to kind of, stack your events. So what you can do is leave, say, an hour, 2 hours, whatever you think you need between your events. And then you can do multiple events on the same day, just not at the same time. So again, you might still just have one booth, but you can go to, you can do a morning event and an evening event and make that happen.
And I think
So
this is most common. That's like somebody who lives in a market that there's like corporate business, or they're focused on, a daytime kind of event, basically. Yeah.
exactly. And this setting, we're going to see this kind of repeated down below as well. But this is kind of going to be your business default. And you can override individual packages if you need to. But in general, I would kind of think of your availability like, do you treat your availability as full day, a full day is blocked, or do you kind of want to squeeze them in, multiple per day? And that minimum time per booking is a little, that's you want to give yourself a little extra time to get between different events to set up and things like that as well. So and you can also set this stuff up further down. So we'll dig into that in a minute. But if you don't want to set a business-wide limit, you can just clear that out, delete it, and there won't be any limit there. Next thing is, are you available every day of the week? By default, we assume you are. But if you change that to no, you can come in here and say, no, I don't work. Maybe you have a job and you only want to take weekends or
Yep.
something like that. Additionally, you can, if you set it to no, you can set it to certain hours. So maybe you only want to do Friday, after a certain time, or you want to do weekdays after a certain time. And again, just kind of a way to stack or to squeeze things in where you have that availability.
I want to just mention something, which is this is primarily for the online booking side when it comes to preventing people to book. You can send proposals and still have events outside your standard availability accepted, right, Matt?
Hmm. Yeah.
But it'll give
Yeah,
you
we'll
warnings and stuff like that.
exactly. Yeah, so we'll take a look at that a little bit later too. But basically, when somebody's going through the online booking process, if any of your availability rules prevent them from booking, then we'll prevent them from proceeding. When it comes to things like leads or bookings or proposals or stuff like that, where you're exceeding that limit, we'll give you a warning so you know. So it can still be helpful to set this up even if you're not doing online booking, but it won't necessarily prevent anything. The next setting here is about lead time. So how much, business wide, how much lead time do you need before a booking? I think by default we put it to maybe like a day or something. But again, it's some people prefer to have more lead time, less, whatever the case may be. And again, if you have plans already for the weekend and somebody comes in half an hour before, you might not want to take that booking. So it's real common to set this to at least a day or so, maybe more. And then kind of looking at the other way, what is the furthest out you will accept a new booking? Are you okay if somebody books you for an event in 2028 or something? If that worries you, if that's something you don't want to allow, you can set a limit there as well. And typically that's going to be, at least like generally 6 months out, a year out, maybe further. So, or you can just not worry about it. At the end of the day, if somebody books you for 5 years from now and you don't decide to do it, ultimately you can refund the deposit or something like
Yeah.
this. And then as we discussed, whether you want to set these to entire day or just the scheduled time. So those are your business-wide settings. But if that's not granular enough, you can of course set this at the package level as well.
Well, and Matt,
So
you left
yeah.
the very top one blank, right? So there is no limit.
Hmm.
And so you're going to rely on, you
Yeah,
don't have to put anything here, basically.
exactly. Yep.
And so, but now you're going to rely on the package slash service, package group, and package caps. Yeah.
Exactly. And so how this is going to be organized, this is going to mirror the packages you have set up under manage packages. And it's going to be nested. So I've got my DJ service, and within that, I've got some wedding packages, some corporate packages, some school packages. Down here, I've got my photo booth service, and within that, I've got my 360 booths, my corporate booths, etc. What you can do is, obviously set a limit on any of these packages. So I can come in and say, for my photo booth light, I can only do one at a time. Probably more useful though, you can also set that at the category or at a higher level. So say you've got several 360 booths and you want to say, I've only got one 360 booth, but I've got 3 packages that use it, or 4 packages that use it. What you can do is you can set it here at the package group level. And what that means is that if any of these packages are booked, then all of them will become unavailable. Or if any 2 of these packages are booked, all of them will become available. And so you might say you have 2 360 booths and then one, whatever your corporate booth is. And you can do it that way.
Yep.
One thing that I see people do a lot of times is they'll come in and say, oh, I've got one 360 booth, and they'll put a one, they'll put a one in all of them. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it doesn't hurt anything. It just kind of makes it a little bit, it's extra work you don't necessarily need to do. Because how our availability works is we're going to go through each of your settings, each limit that you have, and see if that prevents the booking. So, whether I leave this blank, when I put this at 1, then when any of these are booked, all of them are going to become unavailable. So if I also set a limit here, I mean, again, it doesn't hurt anything, but it's kind of unnecessary. And then later, if I decide, oh, I'm ready to bump this up to 2, now I need to do that in a bunch of
Right.
places. So in general,
Yep.
I would recommend, you probably only need to put a handful of numbers here. You don't need to put a limit on absolutely everything one at a time. And then let's click this show more settings. So basically what that'll do is that'll let you override the setting for, by default, since I have it at the business level, I'm blocking off my entire day. If I go into those additional settings, I can override that. In general, I would just recommend leaving it as the business default. So again, you don't want to have to update a million things if something changes.
Mhm.
So it's easier just to kind of leave it at the default, unless you have a special case. So maybe, an example of that, maybe for photo booth, you want to block off a full day, but for photography, you want to get more granular and kind of stack
Mhm.
them one after the other. So lots of options there. Again, I would, generally you shouldn't need to put a ton of things here. There's just a couple of numbers you have to put in usually to kind of capture all of your availability settings.
And one thing I've noticed is the availability. It can get more confusing than you would think quickly. You're like, wait, do I have it right? And it's not. You're like, I think I got it right. And we have this cool test availability feature up on the left, which
Yeah.
is just really helpful in that'll check basically against your calendar. And you can check a package and add on a backdrop, a staff member, and we'll cover all these. But highly recommend these features. Once you have your rules set up, it's going to tell you. And then it's even on the support side, it's occasionally what'll happen is, hey, if somebody says I'm not available, what's going on here? And we'll often use that even internally. And it's really helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, generally when somebody, because we'll get, not infrequently, we'll have people ask about availability. And usually the first thing we do on our end is, we log in and put the date and time and see what it says. And it's going to tell you, whether the date's available or not. But it's also going to give you the reasons why. So in this case, I can't book a wedding silver package because that's in the past. And, that's not possible. So, as you set different rules, if I've got a 1 week lead time rule set up and I put in a date 3 days
Right.
from now, it's going to tell me that. It's going to say, oh,
And
it's
that's,
within.
that's a common one, right? Somebody's testing
Yep.
out, they're new, they're testing it out, and they're picking like tomorrow.
Right.
But they have that
Yeah,
set up. Yeah.
exactly. And so if we keep scrolling down here, we've got a lot of different packages and add-ons set up in this account. But you can also do kind of the same thing with your add-ons. So if you've got a limited number of add-ons, you can set those limits here as well. So for something like idle time or whatever, you wouldn't typically set a limit. But for physical equipment, it can be real helpful. Maybe you've got one of these setups and one TV and two of the uplighting units or something like that. You can come in and set those limits. And we'll, obviously, if somebody books two of your uplightings and you've got three total, then we'll only allow future bookings to book out one of those. And then similarly with backdrops. Is a place where you probably will be putting a number in a lot of different fields. So, if you've got one of each backdrop or something like that, you can come in and set those limits. We'll take a look at some lead time features on backdrops later too. But
Mhm.
another thing that some people like to do is instead of setting um, a limit on the number they have, they'll just order them if they get overbooked. But in order to do that, they need to set a lead time. So we'll take a look at that as well. And then kind of the most complicated is this, what we call availability rules. Um, most of the time for most relatively simple setups, this works fine. But if you've got more complicated circumstances, these availability rules come in handy. So as an example, say you've got a photo booth and a lot of your packages use that same photo booth hardware. What you can do is you can set up an availability rule for it, and you can say, okay, I've got one of these photo booth packages or one of these pieces of hardware. And this is going to basically be like, you know, almost like an inventory or something like that. You know, if you've got two of these, you'll probably put two here, or, you know, if you've
Right.
got, you know, and then what you can do is you can check off all of the packages and add-ons that use um, that piece of equipment. So if your wedding gold package and this one and this one and this one, you know, if all these packages use this same piece of equipment, you can just come through and check them all off.
I think it's worth
Similarly,
noting that
yeah.
it's not common for people to do that.
Hmm.
For most of our customers, the availability rules work great, and they
Hmm.
don't necessarily need to come in here. There are times where you might, but I think for most people, the availability work. If you structure your packages with the package groups and stuff, it can work really nice.
Exactly. And then the other thing you can do with these availability rules is handle double-sided backdrops. So again, if you want to come in here and say, hey, I've got one white-red double-sided backdrop, what you can do is you can come in and, you know,
All
give it
those
a name and number.
backdrops.
Yeah, we got enough in here. And you
Give
can,
me some backdrops.
yeah,
Whatever.
hit Command F to find it, and then
That's
you
funny.
know, check off whatever two backdrops you have in here. So
There
no
you go.
problem with that.
And yeah, with the availability rules, I mean, I think the easiest way I can understand it is if one item is that it checked item on that list is booked, all other checked items are basically considered booked, you know,
Exactly.
for your availability purposes. So you're basically tying together items. So, you know, if a, you know, so another thing I see people do is they'll put in packages and backdrops and then get confused as to why, you know, oh, this backdrop has been booked and therefore all these packages are unavailable and stuff like that. But as always, chat with us if you have questions and use the test
Hmm.
availability feature.
Yeah.
Here's Gerald saying, I use availability rules more often than anything else. Thereby, it'll make my system work. Yeah, awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's definitely like Judd said, I would, you know, if you're checking off packages and backdrops,
You're
something's
probably doing
probably
something wrong.
probably is
Could be,
not
not necessarily,
intended.
but probably, yeah.
Yeah,
And
probably.
just use the test
Yep,
availability feature. You know, I think that's the way to go. But
exactly. Um, And so with these availability limits, I kind of think of these as your, you know, kind of for just ongoing business, you know, as, you know, just on a day-to-day basis. You can also set up what are called blockout dates, and there's a couple places you can do this. You can, you know, if you're already on this availability page, you can go to the blockout dates calendar and add stuff here. I actually usually do it, you know, I find it easier, you know, if I'm on the dashboard, I'll usually go to the calendar and add them there instead. But what you can do is you can add a blockout date. And this is great if you're going to be traveling. So say, hey, for, you know, 4th of July, we're taking a long weekend. You can come in, you can put your start date, your end date. You know, if you have just times you can, or you can just check the all day box. And then you can say, you know, travel or something.
and
Um,
just to be clear, this is for the all packages, the entire account. You know, if you have staff and they can work while you're on vacation, you don't want to do this necessarily, right? This is as well.
exactly. Yep.
You know, you don't want any bookings during this period. Yeah.
Exactly. And then you can put a reason in here. This reason is just for you. We're never going to show this to the customer. You know, if they're going through the online booking, for really for any reason, you know, when they get that message that you're not available, we're not going to say why. We're not going to
Yeah.
say if you've got other events going on, if you're out of town, whatever the case is. The message is going to be just kind of generic as, you know, you're not available. And so once you hit save, you know, now I show that. I can also see it on my business-wide calendar too, if I toggle this on. So again, it'll show, oh, I'm unavailable, you know, I'm traveling, whatever the case may be. You can also just limit that to certain packages. You know, maybe you're a wedding DJ and or a, you know, just a DJ and you're the only one that does the weddings though. You know, maybe you want to allow other kinds of bookings, just
Hmm.
not certain things. So again, you can limit that just to certain packages as well. Or maybe you're around, but you know, you've just got one person that does all of the DJ services, and you know, you kind of partner up with somebody, and you just want to block those out. So lots of different options there. You know, I would say most common is all packages, but you can definitely get more granular if you need to. And you can also block off partial days. Again, probably less common, but it can come in handy. You know, if you're just going to be out of town for, you know, a few hours or something, or, you know, unavailable, you can do that as well. Um, let's see. I guess the next place is, what do you think, Judd? Staff time off, maybe?
Yeah, I suppose you're already on kind of blocking stuff off. So
Yeah. So
block
from
out.
that same calendar page, you can also do staff time off as well. So if you've got multiple staff, you know, that work events, you can manually add, you know, if they're going to be out of town for a week or something, you can select who the staff is, you know, the reason, and block them off. And again, we'll show that on your calendar if you turn those on. Or alternately, you know, if it's kind of too much, you know, like here we've got a bunch of things already in
Nobody's working. It's the summer.
Yeah. Maybe you want to toggle that off. So, but again, you can go to any of these. It'll take you to the place where you can edit it. You know, if something changes, you need to change it. You can do that.
And the staff time off is helpful, right? If you're assigning somebody to work a booking, basically, it'll give you a warning, so to speak, about that.
Exactly. Yeah. So if I go to this booking here and I try to assign Olivia, you know, when I go to view the staff, it's going to show who's available, and it's going to show, oh, she's not available at this time. So it's a great way to just kind of, you know, make it easy to tell it at a glance.
And it's
you can
worth
just scroll
noting,
through and look
yeah,
through.
and CheckCherry will still allow you to assign somebody, and that's intentional, and it'll give
Yep.
you an alert. For whatever reason, we just over time we've learned, you know, there's a scheduling conflict. People always want to override. Oh, yep, no, but in this case, you know, we do it. We have a hand up here. Tammy, is it right, Tammy?
Tammy, hello everybody.
Tammy.
Hi.
Hey,
Tammy.
thanks for joining us.
I'm going to move my screen so I can look directly at you all.
Yeah.
I have a question in reference to the calendars. Will you be going into detail about the actual syncing the calendar on this call?
Yeah, we'll take a look at that as well. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so then I will hold my question until
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tammy,
Yeah.
I'll remember that.
Yep.
Good to see you.
We'll go to that in just a sec. I guess one other thing worth mentioning on the staffing side is your staff can set their own availability as well. So you know, within their account, I guess they go to set booking availability. They can set their own, you know, request time off or edit their availability. So if they can't work, you know, Mondays because they have a job, they can put that in the system, and that makes it real easy for you to kind of see at a glance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we do have a setting. You know, by default, I think we let them just enter their time off. But if you want to kind of make it more of a request and approval thing, you can do that as well. So if you go to, you know, if you're back over on the availability settings, I think we have that in staff. You can say, oh, do time off requests from staff require approval? Yes or no, and you can come in and check that or not. So kind of the next thing, I think. So with the blockout dates, you know, that's great. You can enter stuff manually. You know, if you're going to be out of town for a few days, things like that, it's, you know, helpful. The other way you can do it, though, is to link your calendar. And so if you click subscribe to calendar, so there's a couple ways you can link your calendar to CheckCherry. With Google Calendar, they have an API, basically a two-way integration that we use that allows us to send events to Google and pull things already on your calendar into CheckCherry as well. And so how that works is when you go in and link your calendar, you're going to have this option whether you want to pull events from Google. And then once you enable that, the next option is, do you want to prevent your business from taking bookings during busy times? So for instance, if you have some time, if you have an event on your calendar, do you want that to block your availability, or do you want to treat it just kind of more as informational purposes? And then the next setting is, do you want to enforce a buffer before and after? So for instance, maybe you have, dentist appointment on your calendar. You might not want an event booked, like 1 minute after your appointment's over. You might want to keep that buffer before and after as well. And then here you can set which calendar you want to sync to or from. So, if you've got multiple calendars in your Google account, you can change that. And then similarly, you can decide whether you want to send your Cherry bookings to Google. And again, you can set which calendar you want to send those to as well. And so, so based on that, that works pretty well for what I would say, if you're kind of more of a solo op where, you link your calendar, you're the only one doing events, that works pretty well. Where it doesn't, one limitation on that Google two-way sync is, as of now at least, it is kind of a business-wide thing. So when you link your account, it's going to, that availability is going to affect, all bookings.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got, if you're a larger business with a bunch of different people working events and things like that, that feature is not really going to work very well for you at this point. I think we've got some plans to add some more
Mm-hmm.
Google Calendar stuff, but yeah, so. And so, yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question at all, or if, yeah.
Yeah, to me, did we get you? We got more to cover on the ICS integration.
I think so, but thank you for that, because I think what I had done when I first integrated is I kept everything pre-selected, and it was blocking off event times for just general stuff that I just had on my calendar, right? So I deselected that, but also I'm not really certain how to determine what the primary, what is the system trying to primary, so I can know which calendar to actually select.
So what, let's see here. So it's on my Google Calendar. So basically with Google Calendar, they kind of have the notion of a primary calendar. That's just something they, and I guess it's this default one probably.
Okay, I just
in my account.
renamed mine.
Yeah.
That's why. Okay, so
it's kind of like the the first one. And
okay.
then we'll list all of them though. So I don't think it's not linked to my calendar, but if I had mine linked, I would show this default, birthdays, whatever this test thing is, and I'm not sure what tasks is, but any kind of like normal calendar that we're able to sync with will show up there. And so, yeah, so if you just want it to be kind of like your normal, default calendar, you would probably do primary. But if you want to have like multiple calendars in there, if you create, I don't know how you create there's some way to do that, right?
I think that plus sign there, but I do have a couple, but I've actually, where on your screen where it says default, like I've actually named
I think
them.
if you do create new calendar, that's
okay.
That's
so I think that the primary, I'm looking and doing a comparison. It's probably the one at the top that it's pulling in. Okay.
I think so, yeah. And yeah. And so
Okay.
most common people have it set to primary, but yeah, sometimes they just want it.
And Gerald's got his hands up. He maybe has something to add or a question.
Yeah, I just kind of had a question, because now it looks like you can pull stuff in off the calendar. Is that something that you're looking at possibly doing with the appointments? Because I wanted to look to my Google Calendar and not be able to book an appointment when I've got other things on my calendar, like whether I put it in through CheckJar or not. But I don't want it to block it so that I can't book events if I've got other stuff blocked off on my calendar. But it's vital for me for the appointment part. Like I use Calendar, it checks my calendar to make sure that it can book in something during that time. So if you have the ability to pull in the information for this, do you have the ability to pull it in as well for the appointment side of it? To check your calendar that's you book an appointment.
Yeah, if memory serves, how it works is, again, since there is just kind of one calendar, that will, if it's, when that basically, if there's something on your calendar, it would prevent both bookings and appointments. So it sounds like it's already doing what you want for appointments, but it's going to be a little too aggressive in that it's blocking bookings. So I guess if you yeah, so there's not really currently a setting to split those separately. It would
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it'd be nice. We have, you know, intentions to bring calendars more to kind of more user level and stuff. And I
Yeah.
think that would, you know,
Yeah.
obviously, you know, opens this up. Yeah.
I love the appointment thing. Like I think it's absolutely great, except for if I can't, if it can let people book into appointments when I've got other things like personal items or things that
Yep.
Mhm.
like that's like I use my Google Calendar to book my time off. I just, you know, office closed, all that kind of stuff. But I still want to be able to book events. Like I will open I just don't want meetings on those days. But I'll do an
Gotcha.
event. So
Uh-huh.
if there's a
Yep.
way to separate them or just filter, say, you know, just for the calendar, check the Google Calendar or just for events if somebody wants that. But
I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing too on the Google Calendar, right now we'll send bookings to Google. Obviously it makes sense for us to send appointments and proposals and leads and whatnot is, at least optionally. So, expect that to come as
Hmm.
well.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity around the calendar stuff, which
Yeah.
I think, and it's core to what we do. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the next thing we'll look at is lead time. So as we mentioned earlier, you can set, kind of a business-wide lead time. Hey, business-wide, I need 1 day of lead time before a booking. You can also do that at the package, add-on, or backdrop level. So if I go into one of my backdrops, what I can do is come into the settings and say, yes, this backdrop requires lead time, and I need 14 days of lead time. And what that lets you do is basically order stuff, that needs to be custom made or custom shipped. You can order that before the event. But if somebody is booking you last minute, then you don't want to show that custom option. So you can do that here at the backdrop level. You can do it at the backdrop category level. So if you want to set that on, maybe you don't own any of these premium backdrops because, maybe you use the PV backdrops widget or something like that. What you can do is set a lead time on all of those. And so once you go in there, now all of these backdrops will only show up if it's more than 14 days out. Similarly, under add-ons, you can do the same thing. So if I go to one of my add-ons, I have this lead time setting. So does it require lead time? And again, I can say 14 days, and it won't show up unless it's within that. And then lastly, for packages, this is a new one. We actually just added it the other day. We had somebody it's come up a time or two where people have different packages and, for one reason or another, they need more lead time. Now, if you go to the advanced settings for a package, you can also set the lead time as well. So if you need to order something or do something, it just needs a little more prep work, you can come in and set that. It's probably worth mentioning that all of your availability rules have to match for it to show up. So, if you've got a 3-day limit here, but a 7-day limit on the business, it's not going to show up. Yeah.
It gets confusing. That's where
Yeah,
that
it
test
doesn't
availability can
override.
be
It
really
just,
helpful,
we
depending on,
just make sure everything
Yep.
matches. So, yeah. Some other settings kind of on the package level that are worth knowing about. I don't love that we have it here, but if you're within a package, within the pricing and scheduling, there is another availability section here. Sometimes people have like time limits on their packages for various reasons. So if you can only handle this package for certain times of the day, you can come in and put that. Or, if you've got certain days of the week that you can do a package, you can do that as well. So, that's generally speaking, again, if you're setting all of your packages one at a time, you're setting the day of week, you're probably doing a lot more work than you need. Generally, you can just leave it as a default and then set it at the business-wide level. So you can say, hey, I only work, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the business level, then you don't need to come in and do it individually. And then, yeah, so then I guess kind of the last thing is just that troubleshooting availability. So either if you're on your dashboard by default under the tools, we have that that check availability tool you can come to, or again, that'll, you can also get to it under the business settings, availability, and test availability. And based on that, you can drop in a date, a time, package, add-on, backdrop, staff, all that kind of stuff, and see what's available for something, and just get more information about why it's not available if it's not. So real helpful for kind of troubleshooting things like that. We'll also when you come into, say, a lead, if a lead is not, if there's any availability conflicts, we'll show them on the lead as well. So say this this lead here, maybe somebody came in, they put June 30th. I guess that's okay, but anyway, or I guess we don't show up for past ones, but in general, any conflicts, if you've already got a booking there or something like that, we'll block it off. So that can be helpful. Particularly sometimes maybe a customer, maybe they start to go through the online booking process, they get a message about how you're not available. A lot of times you can just go to sales leads, click on their information, and just take a look. It'll have the message for why it was blocked. And you can see everything they put in. We collected their name, their date, all the information that we were able to collect, and then it'll have a message about why it wasn't available. Similarly with proposals, if there's any conflict, we're going to show that at the top. So you'll have that kind of event conflict warning. With proposals, one thing you can do, if you want to allow them to book, even though it's, even though it exceeds your availability, you can just set it to date reserved. Once you go to date reserved, we assume you're holding the date for them. They kind of get that priority to book no matter what. And, and there's no conflict issues there. If you set it to date open, then it's going to become, first come, first serve. So if somebody else already booked it for that date, then, we'll make sure that you don't get overbooked. And then similarly on a confirmed booking, if there's any reason, a staff's unavailable, the package is not supposed to be available on that day, whatever the case may be, we're not going to stop anything or delete anything, of course, but we will show you a warning so that you can see what's going on there. And let's see. I think that's about it. Anything I'm overlooking, Judd?
No, I mean, there's nothing under the change policy worth that's availability related, right? I don't think so.
Good question. Yeah. So under the availability, yeah, so we've got this change policy section here. There's some settings here. This is actually the same setting as what's on the overview page. We just kind of show the same thing in both places. There are some settings here that, I don't know, kind of availability related. You can decide whether you want to allow customers with proposals, when they're looking at a proposal. Do you want to let them add and remove add-ons? Do you want to let them add and remove backdrops? Do you want confirmed bookings to be able to make changes? Do you want to let them cancel their booking? Things like that. There's a lot of stuff in there that's kind of sort of, maybe related.
No, I think you covered it. That's good. I mean,
yeah.
I think, and we're at 6:43. If anybody has questions, feel free to, unmute yourself and chat in. Also, go ahead, Gerald.
Yeah, I had a question. It's kind of a compliment and a suggestion. I love that when you're looking at a lead that you can look down as you scroll down on the right-hand side, it shows you all the other things that are booked on that day and all the other leads that are showing up. It'd be awesome if when you've got a booked event and you're looking at the same spot that you could see the other booked events that are on that same day. Because if you've got 3 or 4 events that are happening, you're generally, when you're working on it, you're probably working on all of them. And it saves me having to jump, find the calendar, find the booking list. it'd be easier if you've got all those leads, and I could just click on the other things that are happening that day and just jump right to those events. And I could also see when I'm looking at that one event, I can see how many other things I have on that particular day based on the right-hand side. Like it's already set up for the leads, but once they're booked, it doesn't show up in that section right there. If it showed, that would be awesome because it does save an awful lot of jumping around and me trying to figure out how many events do I actually have on that day and what are the types of events that are happening, because we have DJ and photo booth and
Yeah, it's interesting.
even just assigning staff and stuff like that. I can jump quickly through all the bookings from one booking to the other one. You can do that on the leads. Just
Yeah, I think we show other bookings by the customer, but yeah, I don't think we show the other things on the same day.
It's good feedback. I mean, I think, this page is, obviously there's a lot on this page, so I don't know. Maybe even a link to the day view on the calendar would be quicker.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not a bad idea. The other thing, I guess, that's kind of related, there are some widgets that let you do some things. The appointment one will show you, you can kind of advance by a day and see all of your appointments. We have, let me customize this. Get at what else we have. You can also, this activity for date is helpful, because I believe that'll show everything. So that'll show all of your proposals, bookings, leads, etc. So that one's a nice kind of overview for just kind of getting things at a glance from the dashboard. But
those are good, and I have my dashboard. I read it. I have the upcoming bookings and all that. But I mean, like if you can you click on an actual lead? Do you have any fake?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah. And I don't. The other thing with the customer with that page is there is just so much stuff on it, and so there's a bit of a room issue. But
it's not common feedback, Gerald. Like you have a very different business, I guess, than most of our customers. I think is what.
But yeah, like having that somewhere in there. Yeah, it's or maybe it's something that we make a little more customizable in the future.
It makes sense. Yeah, if we did blocks or something here, that would be something like.
It just saves having to jump to the main page and then or like every time you want to jump between events.
Yeah, totally.
And then Jim says, are there plans to overhaul the availability calendar web tool?
So I think what Jim's referring to under manage website integration, we have this booking availability calendar. And what you can do, you can copy that. There's some advanced options in there as well. So if you want to do things like just limit it to a certain package, or, sometimes people want like a wedding specific one or something like that, you can do that. But basically what you can do is copy that and embed that within your website. And they can pick a day, let's see here. Let me change that to all packages. Let's see.
And then Jim, is there something specific, I suppose, is what I would.
Yeah. So basically I'm still paying, I'm paying for another DJ CRM software. And there's a couple of them that do it, but basically on my webpage, and this is the only reason I'm still paying that other subscription, on that webpage, it's on my personal web page, I have a section where it says, hey, to see if we're available, click here. Calendar pops up. They click the date, and then they simply get a message, yes, we're available, or no, we're not available. And then it tells them to call to talk more, or I have some friends that I recommend them to. If we are available, it goes to the what do they call it? The request for information form, where they would put in, I just got one 2 hours ago, actually, and I was just replying to them while we're on this webinar. They put in their phone number, it's the same form that you have, or your customer contact capture type of information. They put their date, their venue, the time, and whatnot, and then I text them, I give them a call, I send them an email back, and that's where I get like 80 to 90% of my my referrals. And with Chuck Cherry, I can't use that tool because when they're presented with picking a package, that's kind of like a roadblock in the DJ business, I just want to contact them. I want their information. I don't want them to pick a package. They're not going to book online before I talk to them and try to, have a conversation with them and try to sell them.
Yeah. Well, Jim, if I remember right, you're like a premium option, right, in the market?
No, not really.
Not necessarily.
It's actually pretty common I
We
mean,
have lots of customers that that offer online booking and book with packages. So I mean, it absolutely does happen. How many leads do you get in a given week that you're unavailable for? You know, we're talking like 7,
uh,
50.
I mean, I'm just a small one, uh, solo op, so I'm only
Mhm.
doing, 30 to 40 events a year.
I mean, is it like
I probably get 10 inquiries a week, and of those 10, 7, 8, 9 of them I'm unavailable, and I'm
the
available.
most you're unavailable? I think that's what it is. It's kind of a percentage, yeah.
Yeah, so
Um,
I just, I just
And so, I mean, you can do all of the like, to be
can you
clear, you
go?
can redirect them to a contact form and all that.
okay.
It's just the package is that much of a deal breaker though for you?
Oh
Having
yeah,
to pick a
they
package?
won't click on that. Yeah, I mean, most DJs I know, at least, it's all about contacting them and
Mhm.
getting them
I
to
mean,
the finish line.
the issue for us, we don't know if you're available because, if you have any availability settings, we'd be lying. Like if you had a one here and
Yeah,
you misconfigure it, like
yeah.
so I guess that's the problem
It's a
is I
common.
don't want to like tell
I
people
just
the wrong
black out my
date.
dates. I black out the dates, and I'm only
Right.
available Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then any dates I don't
One
want to.
thing, I mean, you
Yeah.
can with Check Cherry. I mean, an alternate
Yeah,
solution would be we do have a lead form option, and you could say, "Give me your date," and then give me your email address, and I'll let you know. And with the click of a button, you can, you'll see on the lead whether you're available on the right hand side when it comes in, and then you can use like our quick send or a template just to say, "Nope, I'm not available."
Or
Uh,
you can even have it go out automatically. We do have um, a condition as well. So you could have one condition if send out one email if it's available, one if it's not. So instead of like the
yeah,
first step being a calendar, the first step would be just
just give me
uh
your email and a date.
yeah, email in
Yeah.
a date, and then I'll email if you're
And
available.
that may work for you,
Yeah, I
actually,
don't
when I
know
think
if
about that.
yeah, no, that looks good.
Chat with us. We can help you set that up, but it's under the lead forms. But I mean, I get it. Like I would
yeah.
be annoyed. I can totally understand how frustrating it'd be that most leads you're not available,
Yeah,
and it's like, ugh, another one. Ugh, and again,
yeah. Like if I was going to
I
DJ
get
for
it.
$400, they'd be like, "Oh hell yeah!" But I'm not going to do that.
Right.
I wouldn't say I'm premium, but I'm not going to. I'm not competing
I
on
feel like I've
price.
seen your weddings are amazing, the ones you do. Maybe it's just your marketing materials. They're awesome, aren't they? I feel like they're like super nice.
Eh, they're all right.
No?
I mean, the one thing that, to give you guys props, the one thing that really closes the deal is when I send them a proposal.
Oh, good.
It's just so damn professional and so sharp, where most of the other guys in town are sending out, a PDF contract, and it's just,
Yeah.
so the proposal really presents me as being professional, it's really nice. So
And it's so easy to accept and sign and like
it
pay,
is. It
I mean,
is.
my
It is.
goodness.
So, my workflow is they check their day that's available, they put their information in. I start texting them and emailing them and, ask them more information about their event, and then I craft the proposal, I shoot them over the proposal, and that's the hook right there. They see the proposal, and after I've had a couple back and forths with them, they typically sign pretty quickly.
Have
So
you found most people respond to email or text better? I mean,
text.
it's right, huh? Like email is like
Yeah.
really,
I do a text and an email at the same time. And the text, I mean, I'm texting this girl right now who's getting married in October, and she's been going back and forth with me all night. So,
and then
you know,
you'll text the link to the proposal.
yep,
Yeah.
yep,
Yep.
yep,
And they sign on their phone. Yep. 100%.
absolutely,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
great. See, that's why that works. That's a great workflow, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, it works. It's great, you know.
Yeah, I think a lead form with just the date, the first name, last name, and then two emails. One that says, "Hey, we're not available," and you can send it to yourself, and then another that says, maybe just to you, that says we are
Right.
available, and then you can start. You could also send them, "Hey, I'm available. Here's a link to schedule an appointment," That would be another option too. But I think I like the idea of just starting the process of evaluation and fleshing out right away. Don't wait for the appointment. Hey, I'm here.
Yeah,
You're
100%.
ready. Let's do this.
Yep.
I love that. Well, thanks for the support.
Yeah,
over the
I'll get
years.
up with you guys later.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Anybody else have thoughts, comments? Thanks for joining us. Feedback on the session, anything you want to see in terms of topics or format, we're all ears. So let us know. Feel free to send a note afterwards or chat from within your account. And yeah, I think we've got a lot of opportunity around the calendar stuff. In terms of the syncs, other calendars, Microsoft Office 365 is a thing, although it's not used nearly as much by our customers. I think Gmail, or Google Calendar is by far the most popular. Great job, Matt. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Availability's come a long way
Availability,
at Check
yeah.
Cherry. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks,
Okay.
Judd.
Thank
And
you for
yeah,
taking the time and the effort and the interest in making sure
Absolutely.
we all have it together. So I appreciate
Love it.
it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Okay.
you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night, everybody.